Hello, my fellow YouTubers. This is Roy back again. Let's get right to it. Tonight I'm working on where and what to wrap these magnets with, what type of wire, and how many turns, and how do I even go about balancing out the tank circuit. Check this out. So I put this glass on here earlier today, put a couple of magnets on top. Look at the moisture inside the glass. Moisture. All right, let's get to it. So this is where I'm at. So if I was looking to match the capacitance on the PMH from one coil over here, impossible. Why? I don't have enough space. 1500 turns, which has given us 18 ohms of resistance for one coil. So I don't know if you guys know, but a good friend of mine, made by one man, Scott Russell, talk to him every day pretty much, or every other day, whatever. But he's a retired, he was on a nuclear aircraft carrier called the Enterprise, and he was the electrical engineer on there. So he knows a lot. So sometimes it's hard to talk to him because he's beat it in his head about what is what and what's right and how it works and what they know and everything they do know. As much as he did at Leedskalnin, he don't think Ed did anything with the wheel other than just chipped rocks. So that's where him and I differ. So when I talked to him quite a few times this month, and when I did talk to him about resistance, I get a vague answer. And to tell you the truth, resistance, I never really understood why it's even there, but it's obviously in stuff, because the more wire you add, the more resistance. The thinner the wire, the more resistance, the less current. And so you got to think about what happens to that energy if it can't pass through the wire. It must get dissipated in the air through electromagnetism. So that got me thinking. As the more Scott is, every time I tell him I want to add more resistance so I can have a lot of capacitance, he says they're not the same. And I keep saying to myself, he's wrong. He's looking at it one way. Frickin' military trained electrical engineer, and just looking at it one way. Well, what if I was dealing with lower voltage, so voltage current wasn't like my main thing on this all stuff yet, you know what I mean, in what we're making. And what if I needed to add resistance so that low voltage, 40 volts or whatever it may be, that I'm considering low, it's very low, even 110's low. But anyway, what if his philosophy is, which is true, and I get that it's a hose with water, and you make the hose smaller diameter, you'll add resistance in the hose, and you won't have as much flow coming through the hose. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if how do I go about balancing a tank circuit, and how do I go about adding resistance to the wire so I can build up a more magnetic flux. I'm talking about these guys, the magnets here, because I got very little space. I only can go so far. I got this much space to share between two. So obviously I'm using probably 22 gauge, if not 24 gauge. But I got to watch what I do, because I don't want to limit the current, especially when we start getting into the ground and all that. But the ground current won't be going through any of this. This is just its own entity of one controlling the pulse rate for the speed of the wheel into the PMHs, into the capacitors, into the capacitor, into the wheel as an inductive tank circuit, back down to the other capacitor in the ground, which would be pumping electrostatic from the ground up into the other capacitor, which therefore would be feeding the tank circuit. Sorry if I confuse you guys, but pretty much I got this figured out, except for when it comes to this. And this is what I'm saying. He's telling me resistance and capacitance are not the same. I said, I know they're not the same, but they're in relations, like resistance, and then you got capacitance, which would be resistance, and then reactance. It is in a sense that the resistance is causing a reactance, and the reactance is capacitance, because it's not allowing the current to flow fast, so it's slowing everything down. And I believe that's what Ed was talking about when he was talking about magnets. When you harden the ends, that the magnets get dammed up. So you're building, now I'm answering my own questions about capacitance and magnets, because when you harden the ends of a magnet, you're damming up the ends of the magnets, okay? And you're creating resistance, which would have a stronger magnet. Makes so much sense. Leave your comments, guys. This is freaking on point here. So, I'm not getting any I'm not getting any help from my nuclear engineer friend, because he's just so just pisses me off. I wanted the answer from him, couldn't get it. So with the damming on the ends of the magnets, we're creating the same thing with these coils and with these coils, far as resistance to match. So right now we're at 17 ohms, okay? And I got a capacitor meter here, and I got this on nanofarads, which would be nanofarad. One beer bottle is 1 nanofarad of capacitance. All right? So I'm getting on this, I got one hooked up to capacitance, one hooked up to resistance, okay? Your resistance is 17 ohms. Your capacitance is, just say 6.5 to 7 nanofarads, 7 bottles. Now, whether or not this really works out, to me it makes sense that I would need 7 nanofarads as capacitance to match that resistance. Now, whether I'm right and wrong, leave your comments. But this is what I'm getting. I see a comparison between the two. So here's another good thing. So let's come out of this resistance meter, and let's pull it off. Let's come over here to a setup I got. I got one of these coils. Remember my Figueroa motionless generator, which works, by the way, guys. The resistance on that is going to be come on now. Let me get a number here for us. Oh, it's always easier when I'm doing this without one hand. Damn it. Here we go. All right, so we're at We're at 6 ohms of resistance in here. So, what if we save if there's 6 ohms that I can get as a max using the same wire, 22 gauge wire. Say I get 6 ohms. How do we balance that out if that was important to balance? Well, here you go. Here's my resistance wire. I got one hooked up over here. So the same winds on the coil. And let's go ahead and work our way through the That's going to be crazy. Guys, it's too late in the day to be spooling that like that. That's crazy. What am I thinking? Really? Yeah, we'll get this. Perseverance, that's what I'm made of. All right, so here you go. So, there's the voltmeter and there's that coil. We were at what, 6? Let's check it again. We're at 6. 6 ohms, just that coil. Now I know exactly where to go on here. Let's go right here. And I think we'll be at 19. 21. So let's work our way down. Oh, wrong way. Let's go over here. Up here. And we're at 11. All right. 15. Need more wire. Let's go over here. Resistance wire. 17. Go up here. 18. There we go. So we're going to match the resistance there by adding this wire. 19. So I got to add that much wire, which is a lot of wire, to that coil to match the resistance of one of these. Now 2 of these are like 37, but individually I think is what we're doing, because we're putting one against the other so they create magnetic poles here, and the resistance is slowing down the energy coming through so it can build that magnetic field, and that's what we're looking to do. Guys, leave your comments. Hopefully you appreciate the vid. I don't know what to say, man. This is cool learning stuff. Leave your comments on my resistance and capacitance combo thing, because truthfully, my buddy kind of pissed me off, because, you know, he just keeps telling me that don't worry about, you don't want resistance, don't want resistance, don't want resistance, you want current. But you can't make something work without having resistance. Tesla knew this. He just didn't tell anybody. So if anybody else knows it, tell me about it. Leave your comments. Peace out, my bro hams. That's going to be a vacuum bottle, by the way. Got 2 of them. Capacitance under vacuum. Now leave your comment. Bam!